Hi, my name is Nuzur Ramdhani. I'm from Blemba 73B class. Right now, I will talk about microeconomic analysis of the oil and gas industry because the oil and gas influencing on everything, start from transportation, manufacturing, to geopolitical and climate policy. It is complex and a big scale that make in ideal subject for microeconomic analysis. And for the overview, I have like five core macroeconomic overview. First is like market demand or supply analysis, and then price elasticity analysis, firm behavior, market structure, basic welfare analysis, and also I put one case study for make us better understand about the microeconomic impact to our daily life. For the market and demand supply analysis, the market for oil and gas is a complex and then often differentiated by upstream. We have exploration and production, and then midstream, transportation and storage, and downstream, refining and marketing sector. And then for the categories, the market can be categorized as a buyer, such as industrial user, government and household, and the seller, international oil company like ExxonMobil, Shell, national oil company like Aramco and Pertamina, refiners, distributor, and OPEC plus. And then for the product, they have like crude oil, refined petroleum product such as gasoline, diesel, also natural gas and LNG. And for the geographic scope, the global market they divide by regional hubs such as Middle East, North America, and Asia Pacific. For the demand and supply determinant, that we can call like a factor that affect the demand or supply. For the demand factor, we have economic growth increasing GDP, renewable substitute and EV, seasonal heating and driving pattern, carbon tax and efficiency standard. I mean, for this demand factor, we can take example like a seasonal heating. They need more oil and gas to always turn on the uh, AC in the daylight, so the demand will be increasing in seasonal heating. And then next for the supply factor, they have like a exploration and production cost, geopolitical stability and OPEC decision, such as like if OPEC they decision to cut their production, so the supply will become affected. And then for the fracking and deep water technology, environmental regulation also they can affect the supply. And for the global market share, if we talk about the volume, the the global market divide by two. First is like a OPEC plus. They have like a 12 OPEC plus 10 partner. Uh, they have like 46%, and also the non OPEC uh, market share. They have 54%, led by US, and then followed by Canada, Brazil, and Guyana. And for the shift versus movement, this is we can see the uh, movement along the graphic. What the demand in the left side, we have like a change in the quantity. The curve is like if the price oil increasing, the customer will attend to less buy, and then the causing movement up the demand curve. If the price fall or decreasing, consumption increase and move down to the curve. And for the supply, the orange one, the movement along the supply curve increasing the market price of oil, incentive producer tend to pump more, and then moving up the curve, a drop in the price market, some production unprofitable, and then will become a move down the curve. In the right side, we can see the shifting of the curve. If we talking about the increasing, it's mean the graphic shift to the right, and then if we talking about decreasing, and then the shift to the left side. For the this picture, we can see is like a shift to the left, right? So it's mean like a decreasing in the demand. The some factor can cause the decreasing the demand is like a economic recession, improve energy efficiency, or a switch to substitute like a solar or electric vehicles, so that make like a demand decreasing. For the increasing the demand, the factor can affect is economical expansion, population growth, or increasing use of oil. And for the other picture is like a shift picture of the supply. If like you go to the right side, it's mean like they have like a increasing for the quantity of supply. The factor that affect is geopolitical instability, like a conflict in the Middle East, like right now in Iran versus U.S. Israel, and OPEC production cut or natural disaster that damage infrastructure, and the for the factor that increasing the supply is like a technological advantage, like a hydraulic fracturing or fracking. The discovery of the new oil also can make increasing the supply. So the graphic will be shifting to the right side. This is the table that I put together. We can see like the scenario that can affect the curve. For the example, like a OPEC plus cut production, curve affected the supply will be shifting to the left. It's mean that the price is increasing and also the quantity that decreasing. The U.S. Shell boom curve affected like a supply, and then will shifting to the right. The price will become decreasing, and then the quantity will become increasing, and so on, so on. Next, for the price elasticity, this is a measure responsiveness of quantity demand and supply to change in price. So we can see that the PD formula is mean percentage change in the quantity of demand divided by a percentage change in the price. For the oil and gas case, the PED usually like a less than one, or we call like inelastic demand. Why the oil demand is can categorize as inelastic? Just because first there's no immediate substitute. The customer cannot instantly like a switch from the combustion engine to EV or change industrial power source. And the second one is essential good status. Energy is fundamental to daily life, like a transportation and industrial process. For the government to see this, the control in an emerging economy, dampen market signal transmission to the customer. That's why the oil demand is an elastic just because we can just suddenly switch. Uh, and also this elasticity, they have like a multiplier effect. It's mean that and a little bit uh, supply reduction, they have like a big impact for the price. They have like a IEA research finding that lasting for the 10% rise in oil price would roughly reduce global oil consumption by only 0.3%. It's mean that 1% supply reduction require 33% price increasing to the clear market. This explains why the 20% hormones disruption cost price is spiked 13%. I think like a 74 become like a 70 dollars per barrel become 84. And then for the price elasticity of the demand for the PED, we can see this for the short run. The demand for oil and gas is highly inelastic just because limited immediately substitute. For the long run, they tend to become more elastic just because customer can switch to more fuel efficient car like electric car or invest in renewable energy. For the factor influencing PED, availability of the substitute, necessary versus luxury, proportion of income spent, and time horizon. And we can get the calculation PED is like a percentage of difference quantity divided by percentage difference of the price. For a price elasticity of supply or a PES, for the short run, the supply of OG is highly inelastic also because the extraction process involve a massive fixed cost and a long lead time, start from drilling or survey seismic until they get like oil in the surface. They have like a massive cost. For the long run, tend to be more elastic also with sufficient time and investment. They will have like a new reserve can be exploited, and then technology can be improved for the extraction rate, and infrastructure can be expanded. The factor influence for PES is like a production capacity, storage capacity, ease of entry or exit, time horizon, and inventory level. We can get also a PES or calculate PES by percentage differential of quantity divided by percentage different of price. And then we go for the next slide is implication for the pricing decision, revenue or tax or subsidy incident. This is the relationship between elasticity and total revenue. As we can see from the table, just because oil and gas is less than one, or we call in elastic, if the price is increasing, the total revenue also increasing. And also if the price decreasing, the total revenue also decreasing. Just because we have like a ED less than one. For the price decision implication, inelastic demand allow producer like OPEC to raise price to increase total revenue. However, too high price can stimulate long run substitution. For inelastic supply, make price highly volatile to demand shock. Small demand increase can lead to a large price spike and vice versa. For a producer, uh, I mean, right now we're talking about the revenue implication from elasticity. For the producer, main goal is to make much as possible based on how elastic demand is. When a demand is high, the price are not flexible. The price also should go up to make the most money. For the government or oil exporter, the price of oil has a big effect and on how much money they make. Their budget is vulnerable to change in the market because demand and supply are inelastic. As we can see from the graphic, the elasticity and shifting supply and demand. The demand is relative inelastic. There we can see like a slope down to the right, and then supply shift out. can cause the greater effect on the price than on the quantity. As you can see, if like a Q0, like a shift a little bit to Q1, they have like a big effect on the price from a PO to the PO1. Then implication to the tax and subsidize. To the tax, if the demand is inelastic, the larger portion of the tax burden fall on the customer. If the supply is inelastic, the larger portion fall on the product producer. Given the short run inelastic of both for the gasoline, customer bear a significant portion of fuel taxes. And then for the subsidies, example for the exploration or renewable energy, if the supply not very elastic, subsidies help a producer more than they help the customer, or keeping the price high for the customer. If the demand is elastic, the customer may not see the big price drop. The goal of the subsidies for the renewable is to change their supply curve so that there are more renewable supply and the price can drop to the point where they can compete with the fossil fuel. For the firm behavior, for the cost structure, the OG industry is defined by the extreme cost structure. First, it's like a fixed cost. There are massive sunk costs that incur before a single barrel can produce. They include exploration license, seismic survey, drilling rig, and a production platform. Once spent, these costs are irretrievable. And then for the another cost is they have like a variable cost, including the labor, electricity for the extraction, maintenance, and transportation. For the marginal cost or MC, this is the cost extraction one additional barrel from the active well. Once the fixed infrastructure in place, the MC is often surprisingly low, particularly for the established producer like a Middle East, as we can see in the bottom picture. For the marginal cost in the Saudi Arabia, they have like a very low, around 3 to 8, I think, dollars for the barrel. So if like right now we have like a market price $82, they have like a surplus. Each barrel they will have like a 74 per barrel. And then for the profit maximizing rule, MR equal MC. Realistic for the oil and gas is like a, we can categorize as a oligopoly or tend to monopoly, depends on the market. For the firm with the market power, MR less than P or price, because they face a downward sloping demand curve, they must lower the price to sell more unit. So the MR fall faster than price. The profit maximize condition will remain MR equal MC. The application in the oil and gas, OPEC plus act as a cartel, collectively aim to set the output level where their collective MR equal MC, so they can like regulate the oil price to maximize the revenue. And for the individual firm, even large for IOC, while not monopolies, face a significant market power and strategic consideration. They constantly analyze their marginal cost of extraction from various fields against expected marginal revenue to decide which project to fund and at the rate to produce. And for the OPEC plus oligopoly and game theory in action, the OG industry does not operate in a single market structure, but they shift depending on the specific sector. For the market structure oligopoly, like crude oil and LNG, dominated by OPEC as a cartel and a few international supermajor like Russia. characteristic characterized by strategic interdependence, non-price competition, and high barrier to entry. For the perfect competition, like a local fuel retail, local gas station often sell a homogeneous product like a octane with low barrier to entry and high price transparency. They are a price taker. For the natural monopoly like a pipeline and distribution, high infrastructure costs and economic of the scale mean it is inefficient to have a competing pipeline in one corridor, often regulated of the state-owned, like a PGN in Indonesia. The OPEC Plus must choose whether they restrict output to keep the price is high or flooding the market to gain the market share. Uh, we can call like the game of theory for this action the prisoner of dilemma. If they all like cooperate, they will like keeping or maintain the price is high. But if they have like a individual or individual country, they have like a cheat, they will have like a risk of the price collapse just because the other country also will do the same act like a cheat. They will like lower the price, so the globally the oil price will become down. The OPEC Plus market dominance, they have like a 46% for market share. And also like in this slide, like I said, if the they have like a cooperate game theory, if all members restrict output, they will collectively achieve the high profit. The incentive to cheat, any individual member like a Russia or Iraq has incentive to produce just a little more to make their quota to capture high revenue at the high price, but counting on the other member to maintain the restriction. Like I said, if the all member cheat or they have like a nice equilibrium by overproduce, the collectively supply flood the market cause the price crash. To avoid this, OPEC usually act like a price leader using diplomacy and monitoring to enforce the quota to maintain the oil price. And then the welfare analysis, the debt weight loss of the conflict. The basic welfare analysis. The welfare analysis is allowed to economic to measure the efficiency and the fairness of the market outcomes. We have like a producer surplus or PS. The difference, uh, the definition is like the difference between the price producer received from a good and the minimum price they would have been willing to accept. For the definition for the customer surplus or CS is the difference between what customer are willing to pay for a good and what they have actual to pay. That with loss formula, is the WL is half times the difference of a price times the difference of the quantity. As we can see from the picture that that well loss is in the like cross triangle. As you can see, the supply is changed from S1 to become S2. It means the price also changed, like from P1 $70 become 82 in a P2. So they have the quantity also changed be, from quantity one become quantity two. So they will have like a dead weight loss in a triangle cross, the gray one. It means the customer, the area below is in the customer welfare loss, the customer bear to burn of the shock, the area below the demand curve between 70 and $82 represent a massive transfer of wealth from the customer to producer and deadweight loss. For the producer surplus, non-affected producer such as US, Brazil gain significant surplus on in the rectangular area as they sell 82 while the cost remain unchanged. The deadweight loss, the area represent economic value that has simply vanished trade that would have been beneficial at 70 but do not occur at 82. The causing in oil and gas for deadweight loss is first monopoly or oligopoly power when the firm or cartel restrict output to raise price. And for tax, fuel tax, carbon tax, they typically create a deadweight loss by reducing the quantity subsidized. For the fossil fuel production can lead overproduction and inefficient resource allocation, also creating deadweight loss. This is the market dynamic that I talk about. In the 2026, they have like a supply shock, as we can see in the TV or news that they have like a Iran versus US and Israel. On the February 28th, they have like uh, US Israel military strike on the Iran, uh, including assassin of the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. They have so the Iran they will close the Hormuz closure. This is can affect to the drop to tank the, load the oil and gas in the Strait of the Hormuz closure, and the oil price suddenly changed 20% increasing from 70 to 84 or 82, I guess. So the microeconomic uh, implication or mechanism is they will have like a negative supply shock, a sudden decrease in the supply, shift the supply curve leftward from S1 to S2, creating immediate shortage at the previous equilibrium price. The market price will rise from P1 to become P2, from 7 to become 82 to retention remaining supply. That can cause to Indonesia a fiscal problem. The Indonesia is a price taker, right? So in this case, in the global oil market, we usually importing 55% from Middle East and 30% LPG import. So in this area conflict, we have the stock price from a 70 become like 82 market price per barrel. It means it really hit us as a price taker. So our finance minister, Pak Purbaya, said that assuming the worst case, if the oil price goes as a high to 90 or 92 per barrel, in this condition, without adjusting our current budget, we will increase deficit increasing around 3.6% of GDP. The policy response is they will cut the expenditure that create at least the impact to the economy. The ministry has already drawn up the contingency plans, such as the cut we call MBG, free meal program, save to 100 trillion rupiah or around like a $6 billion. Also subsidize cost impact every $1 increasing, they will cost like 4 trillion rupiah. The other strategic fiber, they will have like a supply diversification uh, from the before the conflict. We usually import from a Middle East is 55%, US slash Africa is 20%, and the others is like a 25%. Just because the price is increasing, also like a supply is decreasing, we will have like a target share in 2026 for the Middle East from 55 become like a 35%, for from the US and Africa from 20% become like a 40%. For the domestic, it still remain the same, 25%. Also, the LPG import is shifting from a 57% from US become 70%. Like Pak Bahlil said, that the current scenario is that for the crude that we import from the Middle East, we will redirect to United States so that there's a certain of availability for us. The policy recommendation in this price shock uh, of the Iran conflict, first is target subsidize transition from price ceiling, move to universal price control to target subsidies for vulnerable population. This will reduce the fiscal burden on the APBN while protecting those most affected by a price spike. And the second one is supply diversification. Like a previous slide, the continues the pivot to non-homo supply resource to decrease the geopolitical risk premium on the rupiah and improve energy security. The other one is like a domestic production, increase upstream investment to reduce import dependency, active, activate idle field, and accelerate exploration in the 75 new working areas in 2028. Also, energy transition, accelerate renewable energy development, leverage 40% of a global geothermal reserve, and expand biofuel program from B35 achieve targeting higher blend. And the other one is fiscal resilience, maintain 3% deficit ceiling while achieve 8% GDP growth, will counter cyclical fiscal buffer and improve state-owned enterprise efficiency. In the 2026 Iran conflict has proven that Indonesia economic stability is tied to global supply elasticity. The strategic diversification and target policy intervention are essential for the long-term energy security and fiscal sustainability. I think that's it from this presentation for right now. Thank you very much and have a good day.